On this week's episode, just how incredible was The Incredibles 2? Why are people panicking over Nintendo? And what kids' character still scares Josh even today? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. Unbelievable. All it takes is one cough. The pop culture cosmos. Hey everyone, we're back for another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you tuning into our shows each and every week. They appear on your podcast or radio networks. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is the, man who covered it all when it comes to E3 2018. You got to check out all the great videos right now on E3 2018 at Humanica Media on YouTube, and check out all the great stuff coming to all of his Humanica Media podcasts. It's my good friend. It's Josh Peterson. What up, man?
Hey, just wrapping up a long week, man. Getting out some E3 interviews, some footage, some footage, which will be up on the web soon. You can check that out. But man, just dancing the dance and walking the old pop culture beat.
Well, I'll tell you what, there are over, I think, 20, last time I checked, different gameplay videos from the floor at E3 2018 that you can check out right now. It's at Humanica Media on YouTube, and you can check out whether it's the New Mutant League or many others out there. In fact, let me run down the list here real quick for you. This will be awkward. Josh covered so much on the floor at E3. We've got interviews there for Mutant League Football. He covered the games. He covered the Adventure Time game. He covered Trials Rising, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Kingdom Hearts 3, Spider-Man, Valkyria Chronicles, again, Mutant League Football, Mega Man 11, Skull and Bones, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, My Hero 1's Justice, Divinity Original Sin 2, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and even more than that. It's all right there. Gameplay video of each of these great games. It's available now on the Humanica Media YouTube channel. It's going to be a great episode we got for you today. Speaking of Josh, he's going to share later in the episode on a clip from one of the most recent Topicocalypse shows. He's going to be talking about a childhood character that still traumatizes him to this day. And you can always tell when he's on the radio that it still traumatizes him. He's going to talk a little bit more about that later in the episode. Plus, we're going to be talking about Wonder Woman 84, which is the sequel to the big hit from last year from DC, Wonder Woman. We're going to be talking about not only the title and what that means, but also who is appearing on the set of the latest film. And what is that all about when it comes to possible spoilers from the original? We're going to delve more into that. And why are stockholders concerned about Nintendo? That's also going to be something we're going to bring up later in the show, because Nintendo shares took a nosedive right after the conference. And we're going to touch on that a little bit more here later in the program. But first, Josh, Incredibles 2 had a huge, absolutely huge opening for an animated film. It is now in the domestic marketplace the biggest opening by far all time as far as an animated film, garnering an estimated $180 million here in the U.S., well over $200 million in the limited markets it was released at overseas. So I ask you, Josh, with all that said and done here, here in the first weekend for the film, it looks like it's really going to be a big hit. A+ cinema score, great Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic scores. I've actually seen the film myself and have a lot to say about it, but I want to hear your thoughts first on the phenomenon known right now as The Incredibles 2.
I have not seen it, so I don't have much to comment on it, but I'm glad it's doing well. I'm glad people are liking it. First one was a really good movie. People I've talked to who have seen it are telling me that it is the perfect superhero movie. But what are your thoughts? And then I'm gonna mute my headphones so that you can go on here. Okay, hold on one second.
Well, I'll tell you what, there might be we might be going into some slight spoilers territory. So if you're still on the way to go see the film like Josh, please go ahead. You might want to turn it down a little bit, but I will try to avoid as much as I can. First off, I'm going to talk about the film itself overall. As a film, I've always said before, as far as the Pixar films are concerned, The Incredibles is, in my opinion, the best film of the entire Pixar library. And you could pretty much throw a blanket over Incredibles and The Incredibles 2, because Incredibles 2 is pretty much, in my opinion, as good of a movie as its predecessor. It is everything that you can do and everything that you can want and everything you can hope for in a sequel for a movie. Not only is it just entertaining, it's been updated, the animation is just fresh and clear and just so colorful and bright. Everything pops out on screen when you're watching it. So beautiful to look at. The story itself, it does in many ways mirror the original Incredibles concept, but it does flip it on its end a little bit from another vantage point. When it focused, the first one focused on more of Mr. Incredible. This time it's more focused on Elastigirl and her adventures, which obviously was a nice change of pace. I'll tell you what, it lacked for no action. It did not lack for action. It was just truly an awesome movie to go see, and as far as what you're going for, as far as the whole family concerned, Mr. Incredible taking on his own adventure, trying to take care of the kids in a role reversal that demonstrates a lot more of what today's society about the changing roles as far as parenthood and the whole family concept are concerned. But even with all those changes and things flip-flopping, where the father takes a new role, the mother takes on a new role, these things are just really mesh well together, but the importance of family is still there. There are new characters introduced. The new enemy that's introduced, the Screen Slayer, as far as from his hypnotizing gimmick, that he goes ahead and is able to go ahead and really connect with audiences as far as through hypnotism. That part of it, as far as it doesn't get really delved into very much, because it turns out to be a little bit of a surprise on who that actually is. Although if you're listening carefully in the beginning, if you're listening carefully near the first part of the movie, you really get a sense of who that could be. So I'll tell you what, it is truly a great concept for a film. Definitely was way too, it definitely has come way too late, as far as it should have come way sooner than 14 years later after the original, because this movie is just a fantastic ride from beginning to end. It is definitely one of the best films right now for the year of 2018. Cannot recommend it any higher. And like I said, if you tell me on the street, if you come up to me on the street and you tell me that you liked Incredibles 2 better than Incredibles 1, I'm not going to fault you for it. If you come up to me and tell me that you liked Incredibles 1 over Incredibles 2, I'm not going to fault you for that either. I still maybe have Incredibles 1 slightly ahead, barely, but you could throw a blanket over them, because it is just such a tremendous ride from beginning to end. It's actually it flows a little bit faster, and the flows a little bit better at times than the first one, but the first one might tell a slightly better narrative. But again, they're both just truly excellent films. I cannot recommend them higher. It is Incredibles 2 right now. You got to go see it at the theaters, because I'll tell you what, you go and see it on the screen, you will see nothing but vivid colors, great action, an awesome narrative, and definitely a great story that warms the heart from beginning to end. It's all about family, and at this point in time, being at the end of Father's Day weekend here and going into the week after, it's just centralizes on that theme of family, and it truly makes it a worthwhile watching experience. Just I cannot make enough I cannot express enough compliments for it. It's just truly an awesome ride. I will say this one more thing, and just to touch on it once again. If you have not seen Incredibles 1, you don't have to see Incredibles 1 to see Incredibles 2, but it does give you a better perspective if you go see Incredibles 1, because they're both truly awesome films to see. They're both truly awesome films to see, and I'm glad to see it's doing so well so far. Right now, it is the biggest hit all time as far as a startup for Pixar, and I couldn't be happier for them because they really have done an outstanding job of making a sequel definitely worth watching.
Oh,
all right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're done talking about Jurassic Park. All right.
No. That's next week. That's our Friday show, my friend. Now, that movie is garnering big money at the box office overseas. Jurassic Park, right now, the latest Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom has garnered close to $400 million overseas, and it hasn't even come out to the U.S. market as of yet. We'll be touching on that on our Friday episode, but right now, big numbers for Incredibles 2. I tried to stay out of spoiler land, my friend, but I will say this. It is a great movie you do not want to miss.
Wait, sorry. I'm so sorry. I had an ad pop up on my computer. What did you just say?
Incredibles 2 is a great movie you don't want to miss.
Oh, I won't miss it. One day, I actually have time to go to the theaters this summer to watch movies and stuff. So that'll be good. I'm looking forward to that. That's on the top of my list.
I will say, let me ask you this. Where do you put Incredibles, the original, in your pantheon of the Pixar films? Because like I said before and on today's show, that I have put it number one on my list.
Yeah, I'd say it's number one. I'll be completely honest with you, though. I'm not a huge Pixar fan. I like Toy Story. I like the Incredibles. I liked is Coco Pixar? I want to say okay. I like Coco. But I'm just not like a Pixar fanboy though. I'm not into like Finding Nemo, Cars, stuff like planes, whatever. But yeah, no, it's definitely at the top of my list. It was always one of my go-to movies whenever I wanted to watch something. So there's that.
And like I said, it has come out 14 years later. I think it should have come out sooner. I'm glad to see, though, it's getting the reception critically and financially that it deserves, because not only for my friend that works at Pixar, but also the fact that it's just a great movie and an outstanding ride from beginning to end. Let me know what your thoughts are. We can go into more spoilers details as far as the criminals, the people who help, the new guest stars as far as that are involved, the new heroes and villains involved in the film as well, because that's something I want to delve more into. Hopefully when you get a chance to see it, we can talk more about that. But I think you'll enjoy it. And I think, like I said, what to me stood out the most as far as not only the great story, but the crisp animation looks better than ever from Pixar.
Yeah, it's one of those because I mean the animation, the first one holds up really well. So I imagine the just from what I've seen the trailers, the new one looks pretty good too. What was the did it feel okay? What was the gap between them though? Did this one take place right after the last one, or was there some kind of like 10 years later?
No, there was no 10 years later. It actually took, like, I will say, and this is not too much of a spoiler because it pretty much hints to that in the trailers, that it does deal with the Underminer from the ending of the original Incredibles, and it picks it up pretty much from there and delves story-wise right from there. It does focus on the act that in the first one, if everybody has seen the first one, there is a law that prohibits any superhero efforts from any superheroes, pretty much banish them. So they address that issue in one way or the other during this movie, and that's a big part of the movie, as like it was in the original as well. So they don't stray too much from what from what people already know from the original. It does help if you see the original, but it does set you up very nicely for the second one if you have not seen the original. So you're not going to be too lost if you haven't seen it. So it's just been like I said, it's a great ride from beginning to end. I think the crowd was clapping and cheering when they finished seeing the film, and that to me is always a great sign when people are actually getting animated over a film from beginning to end and enjoying that. And it wasn't just kids too. Yes, kids were in the theater laughing, expressing their laughter, and very expressive as kids can be during the time watching. And yes, it's a little bit distracting, but hey, they're enjoying it. So there you go. But adults as well were enjoying it, and I think it relates on all levels to any age group. But can I say this, my friend? I will say keep an eye on Jack, the youngest youngest of the Parr family and the baby in the group, because as the trailers have indicated, he plays a big part in this movie as well. So just really a great time overall. And I want to ask you this, my friend. Like I said, it's off to $180 million start. Do you think, and when all said and done, it's going to outpace all the Toy Stories and Finding Dory and Finding Nemo, all of them, to be the biggest hit Pixar's ever had?
Well, at this rate, if the number you're telling me some of the numbers, and at this rate, at this pace, if it keeps it up, yeah, I think it will, because people, like I said, it is impressive that 14 years later, this many people have wanted to see this movie, and it's making this much money. So it could do that and more. We don't know yet, but yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, even with, because I know like the Toy Story movies, what they're the later ones had mixed reviews. So this is just kind of goes to show you that people have a lot of goodwill towards this series, and yeah, I think it could do excellent box office numbers.
Do you think the success of this movie right now, not to mention anything that the Ant-Man and the Wasp or any Ant-Man and the Wasp or anything that comes out now until later at the end of the year for Disney, do you think that the success of The Incredibles 2 washes out the stain and any bad stigma right now going because of going for Disney because of the poor showing by Solo, A Star Wars Story?
I don't honestly, like, with that whole thing, I don't think that there's bad will towards Disney for Solo. I know a lot of Star Wars fans who actually really like the movie, and people who don't like Star Wars like the movie. So I think it's just a bad marketing, and you have your trolls and your Metacritics kind of messing with that one. When it comes out on DVD, I'm curious to see what or DVD digital, whatever. I'm curious to see what the red box numbers are, what the rental numbers are, because I'm sure people are going to want to see that movie eventually. But it's they're two different kinds of movies. It's a Star Wars. Obviously, people aren't going to stop watching Star Wars because Incredibles are out. Incredibles is out, but I don't know how much bad will was like. I just heard about the Instagram stuff with the actresses and all, or the people in the movie and all that. But yeah, it's people love Disney. People will always love Disney. It's a weird thing, no matter how many flops Disney makes, people will always be willing to give them another chance. They're like they're like the dog that urinates in the living room time and time again. No matter how many times they do it, no matter how angry you get, you just look into their eyes and you're like, oh man, I cannot stay mad at you.
I'm sure you do that on a regular basis yourself at your house.
Oh yeah, when my dogs poop and they kick dirt into my face. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, you're so cute. Yes, you're so cute. Well, I definitely agree with you on that account and that assessment. The next kid-centric movie is Hotel Transylvania 3 that comes out halfway in July. But even then, I still think there's still many days to come for The Incredibles 2 to reap success at the box office. And I'm looking forward to getting to see the numbers and what they're going to generate into. And even when it comes to Hotel Transylvania 3 that comes out, it's more of a kids movie than it is a all ages movie. Incredibles 2 seems to translate to a larger, broader audience that I think is going to be going to it, especially with that A+ cinema score, the strong Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes rating, and everything all that goodwill that's heading toward it. And like you said, I'm surprised it's held up over the 14 years, that people still love it and still care about it and are so excited to see it. So I'm with you on that. I think it could reach $1 billion and be eventually the biggest Pixar movie of all time. What are your thoughts on Incredibles 2? Are you excited to see it? Have you seen it already? We want to share. Please share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, like I said, we're going to have a great show here for you today. Actually, we've got, speaking of Pixar, we've got Rob McCallum coming up in the Cosmic Crossfire. He's going to be talking about Pixar as well with John Lasseter, how his, I guess, troubles with Pixar and his impending exit, how that affects Rob in the way he perceives Pixar movies. He's going to be talking about that. Plus, also as well, we are going to be talking about Wonder Woman 1984. Also as well, we're going to be talking why stockholders are concerned over Nintendo. And of course, have a clip from one of the most recent Topicocalypse shows where Josh kind of lets the world in on a little bit of a secret that's haunted him for a long time now about one of his childhood video stars of his distant past. So he's going to be talking a little bit more about that with the guys from Topicocalypse later in the show. I will say this, the one that traumatized me when I was a kid, gee, that's kind of tough because that was the 70s. Shows you how long ago that was. You know what? I'd probably say it's Wile E. Coyote, and that's because I was so traumatized because the guy can never catch a break. And I thought about, that was pretty bad. If I walked through life and I could never catch a break like that, even if I kept buying stuff from Acme's, from the Acme factory and all that, if I never had any good luck like that, man, I'd really be really be up a paddle, really be up a creek on that one. So
you ever see I think I want to say it was Family Guy or something where they were saying like what would happen if Wile E. Coyote actually caught the Roadrunner, and then it shows him like
he wouldn't know what to do. He wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, it just shows him going about like a 9-to-5 job, and then eventually he's like just doing life, and he's just completely bored all the time, and he loses purpose. And
I can imagine that. But Wile E. Coyote probably is the one that bothered me the most because, like I said, he could never catch a break. And when you're a kid in the 70s, you don't really have much to draw on that type of ilk. Maybe some of the stuff from H.R. Puffin stuff, kind of psychedelic and weird in so many different ways, might reach there. But that was like live action stuff, like you talked about with your little scary creature from the past. But I will let you talk about more of that. I will let you talk more about that coming up here in the show. It is definitely going to be an awesome program indeed. But it all starts with Rob McCallum in the middle of the Cosmic Crossfire coming up next. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. Just want to let you know we're on online radio 7 days a week on awesome radio stations all over the internet. Plus, we're on over 30 different podcast networks. Just look for us on the Pop Culture Cosmos channel on any podcast network or podcast app you like. Plus, also as well, you can check out our entire radio schedule on our Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page or our Twitter as well, at Pop Culture Cosmo. Check out also as well, if you're into and need, if you do a lot of cooking on the grill or you just love the barbecue, I'll tell you what, if you check out WheelieQ.com, you're going to see an awesome array of sauces, rubs, and seasonings. And if you're interested in buying some, when you check out, I've got a secret for you. You hit the code POD1, that's POD1, you'll get an extra 15% off your order right there for you. That's WheelieQ.com, WheelieQ.com. Josh, I know you got a great thing going on with Humanica Media. So share with us, my friend, outside of those awesome array of E3 videos you get to show everyone, what's going on with your place known as Humanica Media?
I'll be honest, man. Things are kind of fizzled to a stop right now. We have a new Topicocalypse that has me and Chad, or Chad and I, for you grammar people out there, talking about E3 2018, some of the things that we saw. And it was weird because as I was editing this episode, I didn't realize how many things were under embargo that we couldn't talk about, but we talked about anyway. So I had to go through and cut all these conversations out. So it was a significantly long episode when it started.
Isn't that a pain? Isn't it a pain in the side?
Oh yeah, and that because I went back and I checked my email box and I saw that they were sending me emails to remind me, hey, this says any coverage of this is embargoed until such and such, and I just had to roll my eyes. But yeah, so that's coming out, and we're back on the podcast radio network, and I keep forgetting about that. So I gotta we'll have a special show for you on Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. Plus, check us out there every Monday and Friday with the Pop Culture Cosmos and the PCC Multiverse. Josh, I know you got a chance to see some set photos already because they're already starting to leak out. People are getting excited again over the next movie in the Wonder Woman series. The only movie from DC Films that seems to be garnering any positive momentum at this point in time. It's going to be called Wonder Woman 84. Wonder Woman, basically 1984. So I guess that's the time frame we're dealing with not only her and not only Kristen Wiig, who's going to be playing her adversary, the Cheetah, but as the director, Patty Jenkins, showed us, there might be another individual showing up that we're familiar with as well. Who, pray tell, showed up on the set this week and showed up in one of the action stills from that movie?
Sir Christopher Pine of Wonder Woman 1 fame. I've first of all the stuff I'm seeing of Aquaman looks really good, so I hope that holds up to the expectations. Second of all, Chris Pine, how is he in this movie? What is going on? Everyone's predicting some kind of like time warp or some kind of time travel or something. I don't know, but like I'm just trying to figure out theories because if he were, if he didn't die, something had to have happened. Was he frozen? What happened? We don't know, because if he didn't, he's just kind of chilling all these years, he'd be a lot older than what he looks right now. So maybe this is like from a dream sequence, and she's imagining what life with him would have been like. I don't know. Tell me your theories.
Well, first of all, in the TV show and in the comics, they've had a situation where they've had Steve Trevor have a lookalike basically be the son. So, but that still doesn't make very much sense because they didn't have a son together. So I don't know about that. He didn't say he had any previous relationships or anything in the first movie. So again, that kind of makes it kind of weird. Could be a flashback of some type, but we do know one thing. There is no Steve Trevor in the current Justice League timeframe. I watched Justice League last night. Again, I've seen it. It's actually better the second time around to me. I thought it was more palatable than the first time I saw it in theaters. But at this point in time, if you're going to stay within that time frame or under, you're going to keep that what what they are talking about, her and Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and Aquaman and all that, if you're going to keep all that tied into each other, then there is no Steve Trevor in our current time frame. So whatever, even if Steve Trevor, who is played by Christopher Pine, who is played by Chris Pine, if he does something, if he reappears or hits his son or descendant or some type in that movie in Wonder Woman 84, something happens to him in that movie that he doesn't make it to our current time frame 35 years later. Some 35 odd years later, roughly.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. I had read another theory saying that this is going to help tie in the Flash movie, something about the Flashpoint or what. They're not doing Flashpoint anymore, but yeah, it's gonna be there's gonna be some kind of tie-in to the Flash that's like, oh, people can travel through time and stuff or what. Now, I don't know, man. I'm excited to see what happens, but I right now I have no idea what that can mean, because if you did the ice thing, one, there's no where'd the ice come from? Who did someone collect his body or what happened with that? Two, that's just one more thing that makes Wonder Woman like Captain America. So it's
Exactly.
yeah,
And
I
if
just hope it's
and
not.
and I want to say this, and on top of that, when you watch Justice League, you see so many similarities to the Avengers and Captain America and all that in the first place that you want to try and veer away from that as much as you can. I know you only can create up and think up so many scenarios that are in somewhat of a similar fashion to the Marvel universe, but when you watch Justice League, one of the detractions from it is the fact that they have mirrored in so many different ways, what it's the same things that were done in the Avengers and Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now you're doing the same thing again here with Justice League and all that. And now if you're trying to say something about Frozen and things of that nature in Wonder Woman 1984, like you said, that's just going down that same road as Captain America. And I'm not sure they're going to be, and I don't really think they're going to be doing something like that.
Yeah, yeah, because they've already been critiqued on that, or critiqued, but yeah, I guess critiqued would be the word. Yeah, they've
Oh
already
yeah, they've been critiqued all right on that.
people are already very critical. So I mean, it's I don't think at this point ripping off ideas from the MCU is something that would be in their best interest. But you know, again, how is this possible? Is it? And I really, my next thing is like, I hope it's not some kind of shapeshifter or whatever, because I think that shape shifting villains are super lame, and I don't want to. My theory is that maybe he's, you know, it's like a hallucination or something, or like a dream, but that's all I can really come up with at this moment. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Do they know when there's a trailer dropping for this? Because the movie's supposed to come out in 2019, right?
Yeah, I would not expect it until November, December for a trailer for it, personally, because like you said, it's not going to come out until what, spring of 2019. So I don't think it would be, or summer. I'm sorry. I actually, let me look up the date right now, but I'm going to say you're not going to see anything until November, December. They're certainly not going to do a Star Wars story where they put it out the last minute and wait for the Super Bowl. I think they're going to put out a video. They're going to put out at least a teaser trailer at some point before the end of 2018. Don't you think?
Yeah, I would hope, but at the same time, look, we're getting Aquaman in December, and we still haven't gotten any kind of teaser or anything for that movie. Which, by the way, Aquaman, like, ever I know that there's been a history of DC producers, like, being told not to say bad things about movies before they come out, but, like, you know, one, James Wan is actually not a bad director. Two, the people who are saying the movie is good are people who, you know, they have pretty good reputations, and I don't think they would lie to us. So I'm feeling like Aquaman might be the, you know, the male hero, the first male hero movie that didn't get screwed up. But I actually liked Man of Steel, so I might be alone on that island. But this might be a good follow up.
Well, I got news for you, my friend. Both that kind of surprised me too. I haven't thought about it since they first originally announced it. That it's over a year in the making as far as Wonder Woman 1984 is concerned. It's not coming out until November, so we might not actually see a teaser trailer until 2019 because it's not coming out till November of next year, which to me is kind of strange because I think that it should be like a summer or spring movie, but hey, they obviously know what they're doing with Wonder Woman, so I'm not going to pretty much argue about that one. The rest of DC films, that's all up in the air, but I will say this wasn't a photo or a captured image that was rushed off the set, that was taken by a journalist or taken by a fan or taken by. This was given out and this was taken as an actual movie still, and it was actually tweeted out by the director Patty Jenkins. So this was very much intentional to get this kind of dialogue going and speculation on exactly what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, as far as marketing goes, this is actually pretty clever to put those little stills out, and they, they did that with Justice League also, but that just did not turn out. They're like, all right, here's a poster of all five of them standing together. A week later, here's another poster, but they're turned at a different angle. So hopefully, Wonder Woman will, be mysterious with their pictures at least.
I hope so. And if you give Justice League another try, it's not that bad. It's actually, I give it a little bit better rating than Batman versus Superman at this point in time. To me, it's still pretty. It's still kind of watchable. There's some ugh moments on it. I give you that, but for the most part, I guess it's not that bad. But I'm hoping to see the Justice League series continue, and I'm hoping to see these films like Aquaman, Wonder Woman 1984, and so on and so forth. Whatever, Batman, the Joker prequel. I'm hoping it still ties into an eventual Justice League 2, because I think if they're going to emulate any model from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that's what they should emulate, and the Justice League movies should be the biggest ones of all. I understand that was what they were trying to go for with the original. Didn't quite pan out, but I think if they try it one more time and they build it up in the right fashion, that a Justice League 2 or whatever they call it the next time around can be the movie that they really will put them back on the marquee if Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't do it first. What are your thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984? Did you see Chris Pine in that action still? And did you see him there as far as in the middle of filming and him being part of the next sequel, even though we thought for sure he was a goner in the original? What plans do you think they have for him? What do you think he's doing there? What's your thoughts? What's your conspiracy theory, so to speak? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. I know I should say conspiracy theory, but whatever your theory is on it. Or Pop Culture Cosmo on Twitter, or check us out, or you can send a message to us at Humanica Media, Game Source, and also, again, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook as well. Coming up next, Josh is going to relive his old times being traumatized as a kid by his, what would I say, childhood TV idol?
No, a childhood TV thing that I was forced to watch by my mother.
No, and we'll delve more into that. And the Topicocalypse, and the Topicocalypse guys will delve more into that here coming up right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. One more time, this is Gerald. Thank you so much for being part of the program and listening to us and just, checking in with us week after week on all of our great shows. Want to thank Rob McCallum for being in the middle of the Cosmic Crossfire. Of course, all the guys from the Topicocalypse as well, thanking them for their time for being on the show. If you want to check out all the great stuff that's going on there, Humanica Media on YouTube, or as well Topicocalypse on so many different podcast outlets, starting with Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and more. Check out all of their great shows. These guys have a great time. They're always laughing it up, and they always go ahead and make you smile in one way or another. It is a little bit on the NSFW side, but if you're not afraid of that, it's definitely some good listening indeed. Josh, before we head on out, want to talk about Nintendo. We spoke last week after we saw the conference. I didn't think it was a bad conference at all. I thought it was a decent showing. No, it wasn't a barn burner that last year had with all the stuff going on with Zelda and, of course, Mario Odyssey right after that. But I didn't think it was a bad conference at all on their part. In fact, I thought it was the best of the three major publishers. You didn't think it was such a bad one, even though it wasn't your favorite. But after that, after the conference itself, the shares dropped dramatically for Nintendo in Japan, dropping as much as 20%. So I ask you, Josh, stockholders are very concerned about what's going on with Nintendo, not only for this year, but going forward until another Zelda and Mario come back in person, in the flesh, on their own games, stuff like that, instead of being part of something else with the Super Smash Brothers. Why do you think they were so concerned about Nintendo for this year and going forward when Pokemon and Super Smash Brothers are coming this year to the console?
I don't know. This was news to me until I, did a little research on it this morning. But yeah, it turns out that they, the shares, dropped, and people are. So Nintendo has this weird history of the people who run the company don't, with the exception of what's the guy in charge? What's his name? Who during the UB conference he got the Star Fox thing. What is his name? The guy in charge.
Ubisoft president?
No. During the Ubisoft conference, he was in the audience and he got the Star Fox ship. What was his name? The guy in charge of Nintendo.
The president right now of Nintendo.
Yeah.
Let me check. Are you talking about Reggie Fils-Aimé?
No, I'm sorry.
The actual president of the Japanese of the Japanese overall Nintendo, because Reggie Fils-Aimé is the president of the U.S. based here operations for Nintendo.
Okay, I don't honestly, I don't remember. There's so many Japanese names I can't remember them all. But anyways, yeah, there's. I'm so sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
It's Tatsumi Kimishima. He is currently the president of Nintendo at this point in time.
Okay, I mean, that aside, the people in charge of Nintendo have been notorious for not liking video games. So I don't know what's going on. Like, I thought that this E3 showing was cool. Yeah, I think the problem was like last time they had a lot of popular games. You had Mario, Zelda stuff. You had all kinds of stuff that people were looking forward to. Whereas here you have your Super Smash Brothers, you have Mario Tennis, and then the stuff on the side there are just things that nobody had really heard of. Obviously, Project Octopath looks really good, and it's got a lot of people following that game. But the other things, they had like the Xenoblade expansion, because I heard Xenoblade Chronicles wasn't really that great and didn't really review that well. But there's another weird I'm sorry, I'm blanking out here. It's getting late. They had this what are those mech suit game there? I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, there's just not a lot of, like, they had their two big announcements, like their two big characters, but there's not really any solo outings for any of these characters. Like, that's what people like to see. Mario Odyssey, like to see their Zeldas. They like to see their their Donkey Kongs. I was surprised that they didn't have a new Donkey Kong game coming out. Like, that was a big shocker to me. But you would think that with Super Smash Brothers and Pokemon coming out, that would be enough to carry them into next year.
Daemon X Machina is that mech game you were talking about. That's going to be coming up here in the near future for the Nintendo Switch. That was the one on display. there were a lot of titles that maybe the regular stockholders and shareholders weren't as familiar with. I know the Super Smash Brothers got a lot of mixed reviews. It's great as far I think that they're going to have, they can borrow. Well, basically, it's kind of like a new game, but it's kind of not in the fact that they are bringing back every single Super Smash Brothers character, maybe not having many new ones, if at all. Plus, they're going to probably maybe bring back some of the art from all those previous games for the stage levels and maybe spruce them up a bit, I'm sure, for each and every one. Maybe they'll provide some new ones as well, making it sort of a fresh new feel. But I can understand why a lot of people are upset. I know when I spoke to Douglas and Nicole from Retro City Games, who went down there at E3 2018, they were kind of on the fence themselves on what Nintendo was showing out there, including the Super Smash Brothers, because, like I said, it's not entirely a new game, but it kind of is a new game. So it's kind of weird how they're doing it, because we were worried. I know for a long time, you and I, is this new Super Smash Ultimate going to be something that is a entirely new game, or is it something that's borrowed from the past? And it does look like it's a little bit of both. But I hear you when it comes to to what the shareholders are worried about. Pokemon is still coming to Nintendo Switch later this year. I think if, with the new free game that's available already, with the response on Fortnite coming to Nintendo Switch, I think the shareholders should be really excited about what's coming to the Nintendo Switch and what just came out on the Nintendo Switch, with also Pokemon on the way in November and Super Smash Brothers Ultimate right after that.
Yeah, I honestly I feel like they're really, really underestimating the power of Pokemon. I was there at E3. I got to watch people play this game, and this game looks really good. And there's a lot. It's funny with Pokemon. There's a lot of concern over motion controls, Pokemon Go mechanics, all this stuff. But it really, if you sit there and you watch it, it literally is just a remake of Yellow, and the only difference being that instead of go having your random Pokemon encounters, the Pokemon pop out of the grass. So kind of like in one of the new Final Fantasy games where you get to choose whether you want to go up to these creatures and have a confrontation with them. But here's the thing, when you have these random Pokemon encounters, you're not fighting them, you're just throwing Pokeballs at them. So maybe people don't like that, but honestly, I don't think that there's enough known about this game to really say that it's going to flop or not, because I for one think that it looks amazing. What did they give a release date for Smash Brothers?
Yeah, that's the one coming up in early December. If you remember, we having that conversation on.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But which to me, I still have an issue with. I understand Pokemon's coming out in November, but I still think you bring out Super Smash Ultimate 2 weeks before, right at the Black Friday sales, and not just right after. Sure, they're going to sell strongly. It's probably going to place number 1, 2, or 3 behind Red Dead Redemption 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, maybe the new Battlefield as well. It's still going to be in that top 3, top 5 type deal for the month of December, and still have strong sales and help support the Switch. But for me, it's that 2 weeks, man. That 2 weeks earlier does so much more in my mind, as far as whether or not it's going to be a huge success or just a really strong selling game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Well, I want to ask you this. Before we head on out. What do you think these shareholders were looking for? A Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong game would have been nice, but I don't think that would have really moved the needle. The Metroid game that I know a lot of fans were looking at, and a lot of hardcore Nintendo fans were looking forward to, that wasn't mentioned either. But that I don't think would have moved the needle either, because Metroid has never been a huge seller in more recent times when it's been released on Nintendo platforms. So I ask you, Josh, what were these stockholders looking for when it comes to what they wanted to see at the Nintendo press conference?
I think they just wanted to see the main entries. They wanted to see another Mario. They wanted Zelda. They wanted I mean, I would even go as far to say Donkey Kong, even though you don't think that it would. But here's the thing: if they're or a Wario game, that's I think people are wanting. Like, there's a lot of talk about people wanting a Luigi's Mansion expansion for Mario Odyssey. But here's the thing: if they're just banking on their big four for these Nintendo games, if that's what they think their success is going to hinge on, they have some serious problems because that's obviously these games take a long time to develop, but also they need to diversify their library because if they don't do that, then people are gonna get pretty tired of this pretty fast.
Well, that's something I've told you about before in the past. That's some reason why I have tired from Nintendo in the past is because they have a reliance on a very select few individual characters and titles and icons to lean on. But then again, that same can be said for Xbox and to an extent PlayStation as well. I understand PlayStation goes and throws a lot of darts as far as games are concerned that they try to push onto people, and that's greatly appreciated that they try. Some of it hits, some of it hits, some of it misses. But when Nintendo, like you said, if it isn't Mario related, if it isn't or if it isn't directly Mario related as a Mario platformer, if it isn't a Zelda game, it really is hard for the general consumer, and in this case, the stockholders, to really get behind what they're doing because Super Mario Party doesn't do it either.
Yeah, that's true too. I honestly, for one, have never given any cares about Super Mario Party, but I'm not a hardcore Nintendo person. We've talked about this. Like, this is my first Nintendo console that I've ever really dug into. Second one I've owned, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think there's any reason to be concerned. I don't think because the Nintendo Switch is still selling really well. People are still buying the games and stuff. I think that fans do want more content in these big line entries. There's also the Nintendo should be investing in new properties. I think this is the time to do it, especially since Xbox and PlayStation are on their last leg of this generation. I think that it's time for Nintendo to step up their game a little bit and step out of their comfort zone.
And I want to ask you this: did they really mention or delve into the proposed expansion of their online outlets, and obviously that they're going to be charging at some point in time here in the near future? Did they really go much into that? Because I didn't remember too much of it during the Nintendo press conference.
No, not that I remember. See, that would have been a good thing too, but I know that I've been reading a lot of stuff saying that is they're working on a successor to the virtual console and they have high hopes for it. So we'll see what that is. I for one think that they need to get their app marketplace in shape because there's a lot of people who I've talked to who are on the fence about the Switch because they want to be able to access like Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely an avenue they need to look into.
Well, I also think that they need to change and format their entire infrastructure when it comes to the online experience and make it a true seamless online experience. Ditch the friend codes, go to actual names, and go to things that have been successful on other platforms. Don't try to be somewhat antiquated. And at this point in time, at least they're taking a step in the right direction when it comes to Fortnite, because they've seen some initial huge success with 2 million signing up in the first day alone for Fortnite and 5 million in the first week. That's a tremendous number, my friend. That's a great interest on the world's biggest selling game, and the fact that it's cross-play with Xbox and PC makes it even more attractive when we've seen what happens with the backlash with PlayStation when you don't do it quite as well.
Yeah, they're still that whole thing is still weird to me, but yeah, Nintendo is playing ball with Microsoft quite well, so that there's that. Who knows, man? Maybe further down the line, we might see Activision taking a risk with Nintendo, and we'll see a Call of Duty game come out that's also cross-platform with Microsoft. That would be cool. That would be ideal. And you know, even I want to say even go as far as like a Final Fantasy 15, you know, who knows? Like that kind of thing would get people excited if they were to go into that. But I know a lot of these developers are publish not yeah, developers are afraid to really dig into the Nintendo Switch, but Bethesda has done a good job of that. So who knows, man? We'll see what happens. We'll, you know, maybe we'll get Prey on the Switch or the you know, any future Elder Scrolls series. But I know that some of the more graphic intensive stuff is tough. But yeah, so we'll see. They're doing a good job in my book. I don't honestly like I don't know what the fear is of maybe these yeah, there's a need to diversify, and I think there's a fear of doing that, and that's what's affecting their stock numbers.
I will say this for the PlayStation, these if they don't change their stance on crossplay, as I mentioned on our previous episode, the PCC Multiverse, I think at some point in time you're going to see developers and or publishers start making a stance and say, "Hey, you don't want a crossplay. We don't want your games on your system." I know that's a big risk, but in the tail end of a console, that might not be as bad as one normally thinks, because if not as many are being sold, not as many being used, even though you have a lot out there, that could be a better situation to go ahead and say, "Hey, look, we want to go ahead and crossplay, and if you don't, we're going to make stuff exclusive for other platforms and not for yours." As for Nintendo, I'll tell you what, the shareholders and stockholders out there shouldn't be worried. I still think it's going to be a great winter with whatever new, rehashed, reused, semi-new version of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that finally comes out. I think it looks pretty good. I think it looks very entertaining. Pokemon obviously coming to the Switch in a big way by the end of the year makes it that much more attractive. And you're right, they shouldn't underestimate Pokemon, because I think that's a big part of Nintendo's portfolio. And having a big part of Nintendo's portfolio should be important to all the stockholders that are concerned about Nintendo's future going forward. What are your thoughts on Nintendo's 2018? Are you troubled by maybe the lack of announcements that you wanted to hear, or are you excited for what they have coming out for the rest of 2018? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, like I said earlier, Friday's show, we're going to have a nice bit of talk on Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom. Any last thoughts on the way out, my friend?
Just keep looking out for E3 stuff. I'm gonna put some videos up on the old Pop Culture Cosmos channel at some point this week, so you can check that out too. Yeah, actually, I bought Forza Motorsport 7 the other day, so I'm really excited to play. I got my Xbox controller ready, so we can talk about that later too if you want to.
And we will, but we'll see. We definitely want to talk about where the Forza series is heading, because we know there's been a lot of issues with the repetitiveness and people saying, "Oh, it's a given." But Forza in itself as a series really has looked good and played very well, and is a cornerstone of the Xbox universe. One last shout out before we go. Thanks so much to everybody that listens to our show on online radio, that downloads our programs, but a big thank you this week to everybody else who has given us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, and also everybody who has viewed our show all the hundreds of times on our Retro City Games Facebook page. To all of you, I say thank you so much. It's so glad to have you part of the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.